Namo Namaha, and a very good evening to all of you. On the occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, that is celebrating the 75th anniversary of India's independence, we have launched the, the Center for Hindu Philosophical Studies. As a part of launching this center, we organize a seminar on different aspects of Hinduism. And now today, we are in the last plenary session of the seminar. We have with us two speakers. One is Dr. Kenneth Valpey, and the second speaker is His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Dr. Kenneth Valpey has already joined, and let me take this opportunity to introduce him to all of you. Dr. Kenneth Valpey is a research fellow of the Oxford Centre for Hindu Studies and a fellow of the Oxford Centre for Animal Ethics, OCAE. As the former, he directs the Bhagavata Purana research project with Professor Ravi M. Gupta. Together, they have published 2 volumes on the Bhagavata with Columbia University Press. As a fellow of the OCAE, Valpey has published Cow Care in Hindu Animal Ethics in the Palgrave Macmillan Animal Ethics book series. He has taught at the University of Florida and Chinese University of Hong Kong and has lectured widely on Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition and thought since 1962. So we have such an eminent personality, and it will be a pleasure for all of us and an enriching experience to listen to Dr. Kenneth Valpey. Over to you, Dr. Valpey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Madhavi Narsalai. And thank you for inviting me to take part in this conference. And my thanks to all of you, the August Assembly, for this opportunity. I would like to show a PowerPoint if it's possible. If I can share screen, will that be?
Yes, you can share screen. You are a co-host now, so you can share yours.
Yes, thank you so much. So we go here. Okay. Oops. Well, it just disappeared. Let me start over. Oh, this is very strange. I'm sorry. Thought I had all the technology set up and ready to go, but this is often how these things. Okay. I hope you can. Are you able to see this?
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay, good. So I've called this presentation "Warning Signs: Ecosemiotics in the Bhagavata Purana," and I want to explain a little what I mean by that. So let's see if we can do this. Yeah. So this is my aim in this presentation. As I understand, I have, about 25 minutes now, so we're just giving a sketch of these ideas. So I want to explore some of the Bhagavata Purana's presentations of nature, and here the focus will be on narratives more so than theology and philosophy explicitly, in order to locate the text's broad, what I'm calling semiotic approach to the physical environment. in order to show how the message of the Bhagavatam may contribute to what I'm calling attitudinal changes toward effective human care for the Earth's biosphere. And the first question may be, what is meant by semiotics? Essentially, it's the study of signs, much more broadly than simply linguistic signs. A sign is anything that communicates something, usually a meaning to the interpreter of the sign. And then we have a study called Ecosemiotics, and I'm quoting
your PPT
here.
hasn't begun, sir.
Sorry?
Just your PowerPoint presentation is not visible, just the desktop is visible.
Oh, I was told that it was visible.
No, I think you need to open your PPT.
Yes, it's open for me, but let me start over. Let me see how to do this. Maybe I restart. PowerPoint.
When you share your screen, you can share us. You can share a single window, and that in that window you can show your PPT.
Yes, maybe that's the best way to do it.
You select that window.
Yes. Okay, let's see now. Okay. Now, sharing screen and desktop. Okay, let's try this. All right, are you able to see now? Oops, now I'm not able to change the slide. Is this visible?
See, your desktop is visible to us.
Desktop only.
Desktop only. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah. Now it is visible.
I see. Okay. I made a careful arrangement to make sure this would work, and then it didn't work. Okay. So, well, okay. It's going to have to be in this format. I'm sorry. So ecosemiotics. For ecosemiotics, environment has semiotic quality in different ways and levels. In human culture, environment can become meaningful in literary and artistic representations or through symbolization of animals or landscapes. So this is directly relevant to the Bhagavata Purana, the artistic, literary and artistic representations, but it's in two levels because it's also through language. And then we may ask, why focus on the Bhagavata Purana, to which I would suggest an essential point is not to think of the Bhagavata Purana as simply Indian sacred literature, which it certainly also is, but rather it is classical world literature, and as such, it is wisdom literature for the entire world. And of course, the Bhagavata in recent decades has been translated into many languages of the world, so it's becoming a literary presence worldwide. All right, so why the Bhagavata semiotics and why ecosemiotics? of course, the Bhagavata is highly regarded throughout India, and I would suggest that it supports a deep remedial and corrective process or processes for all of humankind toward devotional eco-balance, as I would call it, and away from ego-based ruination. And so semiotics, which again is about signs and meaning, points to the thinking dimension, which connects to the neurological sphere of biological models of systems, where any chain of causality necessarily begins. And this chain of causality is itself rooted in motivation. And this motivation, according to Bhagavad Gita, is rooted broadly in desire and aversion. So in the Bhagavata Purana, nature is very much a focus, and particularly in the 10th skanda, there are many stories of Sri Krishna's adventures in what I would call the bucolic forests of Vraja Vrindavan, especially as a child and as a youth. However, the text as a whole frames the Krishna story in a context of devolving human capacity loss and moral decay, following the Kurukshetra war of the Mahabharata. And so it's anticipating an apocalyptic dystopia, not a utopia, but a dystopia at the end of the Kali age, characterized by natural disasters. And this is presented very much in the first skanda. It's introduced, and then the final, the 12th skanda, is again returning to the theme of the characteristics, the signs of this current age of Kali. A little about the structure of the Bhagavata. The outer frame is Sutta. Sutta Goswami is narrating the Bhagavata Purana to sages in the beginning of Kali Yuga. And these sages are attempting to perform a yajna, and they are not able to keep the fires lit. And so they resort to narration of the Bhagavata Purana. Then, within that frame, we have Shuka narrating the Bhagavata to King Parikshit, and I'll say a bit more about that later. And then within his narrative, we have the account of Krishna Lila in Braja. So the failing fires, and also an account of the earth cow being abused by the disguised Kali in the first skanda, is narrated by Sutta. And then Shuka, in most of the Bhagavatam, Shuka is speaking from the second canto on, the second skanda. And in the fourth skanda in particular, he's again returning to the representation of earth as cow. And in this case, it's interesting that the cow is withholding the goods of the earth until threatened by the king, King Prithu. And then she, the earth cow, yields her milk to Prithu and all of the other persons and sorts of beings of the earth. And then, again, Shuka narrates Krishna Lila in Vraja, especially in the beginning of the 10th skanda. There are a number of nature-related signs in the Bhagavata Purana, and I'm just touching on a few of them here. All related to nature. In the first skanda, the encounter of king and sage, representing Dharma, in opposition to Kali, who is representing Adharma. But Dharma and Adharma, it's a kind of carryover from the Mahabharata, the theme that the effort to establish Dharma is becoming more and more difficult as time passes. And so then as Kali appears representing Adharma, then the Kali age unfolds in the course of the Bhagavata Purana. And then we have different animals, again, cow and bull representing earth and Dharma, the snake in particular representing fate and death, but also leading to devotional perfection, bhakti. Considerable significance is there for fire, depending is it contained or is it uncontained, and also water, which can be both destructive and regenerative. And then we have features of the world, natural features, ocean, mountain, trees, and these are all, again, sources of generation and regeneration. And in particular, there are forests, and there won't be a whole lot of time to explain this, but forests are places both of danger and of shelter. So again, the king, King Parikshit, is representing dharmic leadership in opposition to Kali, who is embodiment of adharma. Being in opposition to Dharma, the dharmic order he's conceived, which is conceived as cosmic or natural order. Then again, there's the cow and the bull, personifications of earth and Dharma. And what Kali does in the narrative of the first skanda is to damage 3 of the bull's 4 legs. These are austerity, purity, and compassion, such that the bull is left standing on 1 leg only, the leg of truthfulness. And this is also rapidly deteriorating. The whole idea, the whole frame of the Bhagavata Purana, a major concern of the Bhagavata, is to exclude what it calls kaitava dharma, or deceitful dharma. And Kali, in particular, is representing deceitful dharma. In contrast to Parikshit is the sage Shuka, who represents perfected harmony with nature, or we may say a kind of medium between the human and the natural. Sage Shuka is detachment personified. His detachment is complete. He is identified as Atma Rama. And yet, and this is important in the Bhagavatam, he is attracted to bhakti, toward Hari, to nature's source. Significantly, he is Digambara, he is clothed by the directions, and this also indicates his communion with nature. He is a personification of the opposite of Kamadeva, by virtue of his absolute detachment. So yes, a little more about forests. For Maharaj Parikshit, The forest is a place of frustrated desire and thirst. Later in the 5th skanda is the story of Bharata. We don't have time to go into his story, but for him it is a place of distraction where he's attempting to practice yoga meditation, but he allows himself to become distracted. For Ajamila, in the beginning of the 6th skanda, the forest is a place of fall down from Brahmanical behavior, in which he encounters a nameless, low-class, possibly an outcast woman representing wild, untamed passion. And she, in turn, represents nature as illusion, or a manifestation of Maya, the magic or illusion perpetuating bondage in samsara. In general, the Bhagavata represents women as a danger, and they are thereby associated with wild nature. But this is, importantly, there are exceptions to this. There are Queen Kunti, Queen Devahuti, and most especially the Vrajagopis in the 10th book. Vrindavan forest then is a place of ultimate shelter, and it's a place where the semiology significantly shifts. The elements and other signs of nature become the perfect stage for the enactment of bhakti, and where, for example, a snake, a multi-headed snake, Kaliya, who has a name and has wives, facilitate Shri Krishna's play. And his play in this particular Leela is the elimination of pollution from the Yamuna River and the immediate environments of the Yamuna. So, continuing on this point of the 10th skanda having a radically different semiology of nature from the 1st through 9th and the 11th through 12th skandhas, there is a shift in binaries from dharma versus adharma to Krishna and his devotees versus assorted so-called demons, asuras, who are often appearing in monster-like animal forms. Nature as a subject of devotion and therefore a source of love. Nature becomes a backdrop or a background for the dramatic stage of rasa, especially prema rasa, or as a playground. Nature becomes a playground, an aesthetic enhancement for the enactment of Krishna's sports, and for the display of reciprocal devotional sentiments between Krishna and his devotees. So Vraja, or Vrindavan, may be described as not natural so much as supernatural, where everything functions under Krishna's supervision. And I'm sort of playing on that word, taking the literal meaning, actually. More directly, this play is happening under the direction of Yoga Maya, where Vraja is characterized by rustic abundance, cosmic functions, flora and fauna are exhibiting aesthetically pleasing harmony, especially at the time of Krishna's Avirbhava, his appearance. In Vraja, nature is super real because of its constant proximity to Krishna as the absolute real Satchit Ananda Vigraha. nature is under the supervision of Yoga Maya, as I mentioned, whereas ordinary nature outside Vraja is under the supervision of Mahamaya, the illusion-generating, illusion-perpetuating feature of divine power. Yoga Maya is Krishna's artful and wondrous instrument for securing connections, yoga, between himself and his devotees. Going back to the other side of nature, outside of Vraja, the general theme is that the Bhagavata, as a didactic work, aims to include a pointed challenge to the human assumption that nature is to be or can be dominated and exploited for selfish purposes. And as I've been discussing, there are so many semiotic signs for this, various elements, classes of flora and fauna, and land features. The Bhagavata presents an implicit dividing line between wild nature and tame nature. Attempts to tame or domesticate nature, even with the best dharmic intentions, may temporarily succeed, but wild nature is ever threatening to teach an essential lesson for human beings. Bhakti inverts the signs and meanings, particularly in the 10th skanda, such that nature is an active participant in devotional exchange. For example, a mountain becomes an umbrella for Krishna and his friends, a multi-headed snake becomes a stage for Krishna's dancing, a whirlwind becomes an opportunity for baby Krishna to fly about, and cows and bulls become expansions of Krishna. The theme of nature's devotionally reciprocal bounty in the 10th canto is highlighted there. Within the context of nature as oppositional, second of two main categories of nature in Vraja, the story of Govardhan is especially important to highlight nature's bounty. And there are three aspects of this Leela which are to be noted. First, there's the initial festival as a feast of bounty offered to Govardhan, which Krishna identifies himself with. Thus, Krishna identifies himself with the bountiful embodiment of nature, and bountiful nature becomes a form of the divinity, a form that receives human sacrificial, that is, vegetarian offerings of nature's products as food. Second, Krishna positions himself when the deluge begins between the destructive forces of nature and the Vraja residents, hence as the protector of his devotees against the onslaughts of any adversarial forces manifest in nature. And thus he both separates and joins together two aspects of earth, its sustaining supportive features, the earth as a whole, and its protective feature, the hill functioning as an umbrella. Third, the Leela concludes with a celebratory display of cosmic plenitude in the form of a royal consecration. Trees flow with honey, plants become ripe without cultivation, mountains bear jewels forth to their surface, all animals become non-inimical. It is the realm of eternal possibility. And so Govardhan, this hill or this mountain, can be understood as an embodiment of bhakti. Familiar nature is transformed into unfamiliar nature in Govardhan Leela, and this Leela contributes substantially to the Bhagavata's overall picture of nature in relation to bhakti and dharma. And I won't read the Sanskrit here, but the translation, alas, friends, this mountain is the best servant of Hari. Touched by the feet of Balaram and Krishna, he is jubilant. He offers respects to the Lord by providing drinking water, soft grass, fruits, flowers, vegetables, and caves to them, along with their calves, cows, and friends. I'm going a bit over time, so making it quick. The Bhagavata's narrative representations of nature may contribute to environmental protection discourse. Holism, as a fuzzy concept, can gain some specificity. The Bhagavata's narrative representations of nature are best understood in the context of the wider discourse on the relationship between Dharma and Bhakti. The Bhagavata argues that Dharma, both individual and cosmic, can be effectively pursued only in the light of the deeper principle of Bhakti, specifically in relation to Krishna. And the text offers a panentheistic perspective reaching beyond abstract theologizing on effective environmental protection. And finally, the Bhagavata advances two challenges to the present-day world. It offers a case for the protection of animals rather than consumption of them, and it urges Krishna Bhaktas to protect the land of Raja specifically and the world as a whole generally as a place of divine presence. And I will end there and say thank you all very much indeed.